talking after Mr. Jenkins had presented his report, but I have reviewed it. My name is Ray Richards, and I'm Director of the West Vancouver Shoreline Preservation Society. I want to say thank you very much, Madam Mayor, to you and to this council for bringing this matter forward, something that has been sitting and gathering dust in various offices for the last 30 years. And it's really very commendable of you to be getting this done. We appreciate it very much. The advantage that we have, that we are a formal society, organized and registered with the province. On your previous topic, we have the advantage that we do minutes. We don't use the staff person. We do our agendas, and we don't use the staff person. We get our own location and don't use municipal facilities unless they are available for some part of it. And we have some very knowledgeable people involved. People who are prepared to do a whole lot more. They have volunteered construction equipment, volunteered hours of very skilled professional work, are prepared to go and put in dollars. We've put in dollars to fund and start a number of things. We've raised money for educational purposes and are working with Mr. Jenkins on all of this. And I want to give a really big thank you to Stephen Jenkins. He is a breath of fresh air to work with. He gets things done, and he does it in a very great manner. We have a lot of future plans that we would like to work with Council and through Mr. Jenkins on this matter of the foreshore, the shoreline, the offshore, not just on the little bit on the Ambleside bit, which is the prime focus, but also on the rest of it. The advantage that we have as a society is that we don't take up time of the staff other than when we liaise with Stephen. We can't be suppressed if some of our ideas may not be what some of the council members might not want to hear about, or what staff might want to hear about. We can bring all this stuff forward. But further, we have the ability that since we are not a creature of council, we can go to corporations and say, will you contribute to this? Something that would be pretty hard for a council to do, to go and ask for things. So we can do this kind of stuff and are prepared to do a lot more if we get a little bit of blessing from you on that. For example, one of our members, Chuck Bronner, was for a long time a dean of engineering at the University of British Columbia with excellent contacts, and there is some research work that can be done over a period of years by university people who can draw funding from provincial and federal places where the province would not particularly feel comfortable funding the District of West Vancouver, but they might fund the university for research work on this shoreline. The same thing goes for a number of other situations. But first, the main thing we want to do is say thank you very much for bringing this forward, and thank you to Stephen for getting things done.
Welcome, thank you. And now Steve Jenkins will present to us his PowerPoint, I think, on foreshore initiatives.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Good evening. Mr. Richards just figured out if he loads me full of coffee that I work very fast, I think. So I just want to give you a brief update and an introduction to the report, kind of an overview of the report tonight. And I'll just quickly run through kind of where we've been and hopefully where we're going. The purpose of the report is to follow up on all the work that the Engineering Advisory Committee has done, and I agree with Councillor Day that they were truly the catalyst to this whole initiative. And over the last 30 years, it's amazing all the reports and work that have been done on the foreshore, and nobody had sort of focused their efforts to bring it all together and kind of take that next step to actually put it in writing as far as an action plan goes and things like that. So full credit to Adrian and the Engineering Advisory Committee. They've been good, and they've also been good about following up as to our progress. It's been an interesting kind of time with them, as they've almost handed things off to the Shoreline Preservation Society now, and it's been a really fluid process working with them. Just, I guess, to regress or to digress back to that kind of end of things, it's a very easy way to work for staff. It's very efficient, and I really I find it just so there's no minutes. There's just things that make life easier from my perspective. So once we received the Engineering Advisory Committee's report, there was a number of technical engineering questions that we didn't have the expertise on staff to answer. We thought it was only prudent to have a peer review done of the report, just checking on things. Sandwell Engineering did that. It was quite complimentary. They agreed with the basic direction of the Engineering Advisory Committee's report, and I've put in and attached the executive summary on the report to Council. Following that report, with general consensus as to the direction, one of the missing pieces of information that we really needed, because that report focused on the engineering aspects and property protection, things like that, we thought it was really important, and through discussion, to find a little bit more about what actually existed below the surface from a biophysical perspective. So we managed to scrape some money together and last year and got the sledding done, underwater sledding, and there's some pictures there of the guys working. Quite an amazing. They just tow them along and GPS and basically create a map, and you're going to see that in the next slides, the map that they create. So the picture on your right is actually what it looks like off 19th or 18th, right off Lawson Creek. And if you look carefully, the sort of rough outline there is there's two very large boulders which are just so out of place no one can figure out where they came from, but there's these two massive boulders down there, and it's quite interesting. So the two distinct types of vegetation and conditions that we saw there were one on the left-hand side, which was predominantly sand with eelgrass, and the challenge with the sand and eelgrass is with the kind of tidal action we get and currents, it tends to grow and get pulled out and goes away, so it provides seasonal cover, but nothing permanent. The other area is closer to the 19th with a little 18th and 19th Avenue, a little more cobble, a little more diverse as far as underwater vegetation and opportunities go. Just to the west of this area, they got a great shot of some lingcod moving around. So as we move through, they created these rough maps, and I'll build out on this. If you look at the big green area, that is basically sand. Right at the end, you see 2500, so that's the 25th. You can see the Dunderave Pier on the left-hand side, but really pretty much dominated by sand, and it blowing up a little bit. You can see inshore, you see a little bit of rock and boulders. And then when we start to look at this as to opportunities, what can we do? We have to think of our currents and basically your sediment tracking. So sediment moves from the west or from the west to the east, and because of the type of topography that we found underground, it's fairly easy to find out why we lose that sediment. It just goes offshore, gets deep, and then gets basically sucked away under the Lionsgate Bridge. After we put it all together, you come up with some opportunities for enhancement. If I quickly work through them, from pilot one on the east end, really these are just extensions of existing groins, hoping to trap a little more sediment. and grow the waterfront or grow the beach at the Ambleside area. Working out to the west, I'll talk a little bit more about pilot number 4 in future slides, but number 5 and number 6 are really, number 6 is kind of interesting. We're talking about putting in a rock garden just to add some complexing to the sand. Also, one of the recommendations in the Engineering Advisory Committee's report and confirmed by Sandwell would be some opportunities to set in some large rocks just offshore to act as a wave trip to see if we can start to create a little better wave action so the waves are actually breaking further away from shore and thus doing a little better job of protecting our seawall. If it works out, then we can build on it, and I'll talk more about the scalability of the projects. So we keep building out. We look on the left-hand side is a picture, aerial photo of the Dunderave Pier, and you can see how the sediment on the very left hits the pier, then goes out to deeper water and is sucked away down to the east. The next picture on your right-hand side is Navijack Point, and you can see there's a buildup. That lighter color in front is just the buildup of the sand in front. So just things that are provide some opportunities to really create a better underwater situation. So the majority of the projects are subtidal, so they're not going to be seen by the public. They're very low profile and scalable. The one project that we're proposing that we've been through the planning exercise, we're down to detailed design on now, is a project. These are the two houses just to the east of 18th on Argyle, and right through the middle is Lawson Creek where we've done the baffling. So the arrow points to a mound of sand that is building up naturally. Our proposal is to actually augment that mound a little bit and build it out slightly further. And what we believe will happen in discussions with the engineers will grow this beach. And I rendered a little bit of a picture just to show you what might be an opportunity in that we would actually grow the beach to a point where we could create the path out front of the houses. And so if we went back, you see that there's no beach, and then by putting some a groin, basically, it's a very low profile. It's only about a half a meter high. Out to the south, we could probably get the beach to look like this in the next 5 to 10 years. So offer some opportunities, as well as add some better diversity as well to the area. You'll see some more plantings, and it can add the pathway out front. That's kind of the one project that people would be able to see, so there is some visual impact. So some of the key points on the projects, they're scalable in nature. Cost is obviously a big one. We're doing things to save money, but we really need to just monitor the burn rate, as I say, and watch that we don't use up our money all in one place. We'll be able to just move as we get the projects to a viable stage. If we're running out of money, we'll just move on to the next one. So we also really want to watch what happens with these projects. We're cautiously approaching these. They do have some potential for large implications, as was pointed out through the chain of bureaucracy when we met with Navigable Waters Protection Division, who most people don't even know exist, but they're there. They protect the shipping lanes. We don't want to mess with the shipping lanes, we're told, probably for good reason. But the projects, we really need to have some detailed survey work now so we can watch these projects and make sure that we're not impacting the shipping lanes. It sounds bigger maybe than it is because the projects are quite small. They're basically saying if fisheries buys in, then we're okay for now. But again, we will be monitoring them. We could dismantle them, or we could build on them depending on the success or negative impacts that we have. And really, the projects have minimal visual impacts because most of them are subtidal. Department of Fisheries and Oceans has agreed in principle to the projects. The projects are subject to review by fisheries. They are subject to review by navigable waters. The next part is the Burrard Environmental Review Committee, so that's the next stage. They are aware that the projects are sort of in the pipeline now, and because they're basically termed habitat improvement projects, that we don't anticipate any problems. So detailed design is ongoing. It's important for everybody. We're working closely with Ray's group. They really do bring a lot of expertise to the table, and it's really interesting because they've got engineering people on board, they've got construction people on board, they've got finance people on board. So it's quite a broad spectrum of people they bring, but certainly have had some interesting discussions and very worthwhile discussions. We're working with other groups, and the Shoreline Preservation Society is also just really trying to find any contact we can to save money. People are willing to donate, in-kind donations, so if it's machine time and things like that, we're doing everything we can to sort of get the biggest bang for the buck. We intend on completing these projects in 2006, depending on the money, really. There is a cost breakdown in the report for 2006, which is it's $80,000 this year, so we're trying to do everything for under that. Looking forward at a 3-year plan, and the gentleman Derek Hawkins that spoke before, just wanted to assure him that we think one of the really, really important things as we go forward is we don't lose sight that this is only a small portion of West Vancouver, and there needs to be a more comprehensive plan that addresses issues right along our whole waterfront and whole shoreline. Things like accretions, development permit areas potentially, and we do have an interdepartmental team sort of working on that now. We've been in contact with planning, so we're talking about those kind of things. We've got engineering concerns, obviously infrastructure protection with our sewer line and things like that, so we're working with engineering closely, and environmental improvement opportunities. There's plenty out there. It's just a matter of identifying them and making sure that they can work. Really, I think that this year there's a great opportunity for community input and education. I think people are going to raise their eyebrows a bit when they see machines on the beach moving rock around. We'll have signage, and we'll have people on standby to kind of help people understand what we're trying to achieve. And no question, we've had good feedback to date. We're going to continue to do monitoring of the pilot projects to not only identify new projects, but we can see if we need to build or change the existing projects. So that's a very, very important part as well. So, and that's my presentation tonight.
Thank you very much. Councillor Sapovich.
Mr. Jenkins, in the original report on the sustainability of the shoreline, there were indicators that, for instance, at the foot of 16th to the east of John Lawson Park, that land over 40, what are we, 2003, over 50 years ago, there was a 5-foot drop-off from the front of the property. Not too many years back, the owner purchased an accreted area where there was only a 2-foot drop-off, and he acquired some 15 feet in front of that property, which accreted over those number of years. Yet, at the foot of 14th, east of the ferry building, that property or land on the beach eroded. I'm sure there are other areas that accrete in the road over Mother Nature and the southwesterlies that we get. Is there anything within your thoughts that by application of groin, underwater groin and or water gardens that we could evolve where there would not be this division between accretion and removal based on what we do in the subtidal area? That's question one.
Thank you for the question, Councilor Sopovich. If I understand it, you're asking whether or not the subtitle work could actually control accretions and evulsions? And the answer would be no. This is intelligent tinkering, I think, at best. We are trying to tweak the flow of sediment, but large storm events, wind over tide, when we've got high tides and high winds, there will be always some changes to the foreshore that are well beyond anybody's control. It doesn't matter what we do subtidally. But it's interesting, you talk about accretions. The other part of the equation is the evulsions, and that the same law applies that if land naturally evulses, you can actually ask for it back, but I don't believe that's ever happened.
Well, I look forward to the work that you'll be doing with the society, because I can remember in the, if we call it a 100-year storm, the last one was one of those, and it removed large portions of sand from Ambleside Beach. The area flooded. Certainly the seawall got a pounding, and the repair was done.
Shall we get the question on the floor and have
Yeah,
a
I
further
just have
discussion?
one more comment,
Right.
and we can get on with it. Mr. Jenkins, the efforts that you put forth in this community, as well as others who are concerned about the environment, need an ongoing issue of education. If we do all this effort on the foreshore, and we have certainly made substantial inroads in the environment to our creeks and streams, education component would be the very picture that you showed tonight at the 18th. A week or so ago was completely white, probably paint came down that stream, and it's happened before, and there are pictures to prove it.
Do you have a question?
Well, I was getting to it. I guess what I'm saying is rather significant, Madam Mayor. So that in part is the issue of the education for people. If we do all this work, what are we doing it for? For the environment, and specifically for the creeks and for salmon bearing. And if we don't take the initiative of educating people in our community so that we don't have these constant disruptions, then we're not any further ahead. My comment to you.
All right. Councillor Clark for the motion, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And with your permission, Madam Mayor, I would like to split this into the two items.
Certainly.
So I'll start with the update report dated June 20, 2006 from the Environmental Coordinator, Reef Foreshore Initiatives. Update report be received.
Thank you. Any comments? Other than to say thank you very much for your work, and to that of the Society, and to that of the Engineering Advisory Committee. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Councillor Clark.
In the second part, Madam Mayor, I would like to offer Council what I think is a minor but significant alteration to the wording, being the attached action plan and working protocol for 2006, 2007, and 2008 be implemented, subject to budget considerations.
Second.
Thank you. Council discussion. No one has anything further to add?
Well, he said budget
Yes.
constraints.
Yes.
I mean,
Now is the time for the debate, if there's anything further anybody wishes to ask. Or, all right then, call the question. I'm sorry. Councillor Ferguson.
Actually, now is not necessarily time for debate to implement. It will happen at budget time. We will have a discussion, will we not, in each year subsequently as to what will be undertaken and the costs thereof?
Certainly the budget priorities would be for debate.
Yes.
But the actual policy itself, that debate happens now. Mr.
And
Stewart.
we have a budget within the infrastructure replacement budget allocated to environmental projects, and we have up to this point, at least with the advent of this particular project, used those funds to implement this. So we would still work within that framework. If we needed more money, it would be at the budget time that we would try to make that reallocation.
All right then. Seeing nothing further, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A brilliant start to our business plan on sustainability as well. Item 4.4, proposed work within a covenant area. Mr. Nichols.
Madam Mayor, this is a It's somewhat unusual. Back in 1977, a subdivision was approved in this location, and there's a creek on the property. There was a covenant registered on that creek by the approving officer, not by council, by the approving officer. The covenant states that works in that area would require the district's approval. And under normal circumstances, back in those days, the district's approval, when it was put in place by an approving officer, meant the director of engineering. We no longer interpret things that way. The district's approval means council unless it's delegated to staff. And so it says in there that they won't take place unless approved by the district, and such approval not to be unreasonably withheld. We've reviewed this application, which is for the basic major renovation of an existing home, and the proposal complies with the district's policies regarding creek encroachments. And so therefore, because it complies with council's policy on creeks, we believe it's reasonable to allow the works to take place in accordance with the covenant. But we require a council decision to confirm that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Day.
With that exclusion.